What's up? What's up? What's up? Rick Paulton, and I'm joined here today by the director of the upcoming film, the mortuary assistant, Jeremy Kipp. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
I'm great, Rick.
Awesome, man. Thanks for taking the time to come on. Yeah, I seen a trailer for your film. I think I've seen it a couple times, but most recently when I was watching Iron Lung.
That's right. We played before Iron Lung, which was such an honor, honestly.
Right on, yeah. And then your name popped up on my Facebook, and I'm like, hey, that's the guy that's directing this movie. So let me reach out to him, see if I can get him on. But I was really interested in the movie from the trailer. It's really cool looking, and that comes out next Friday, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Friday the 13th, indeed.
Friday the 13th. Now, I had the privilege of getting a screener from one of your people. They sent me it, so I was able to see the film. We won't get into spoilers, obviously, because we want people to go out and see it. But just real quick, I really enjoyed the film, so much so that I bought the game for my PlayStation.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I've been playing that a little bit. I'm not a huge gamer. I got a PlayStation mostly to watch movies. But yeah, I figured I'd try to check that out. And it's pretty cool.
The game is very scary.
Yeah, definitely digging it. So where are you from? Let's start basic.
Well, originally from Rhode Island, which is H.P. Lovecraft country.
Nice.
And I moved to New York to go to film school. And I've been here ever since, So
New York City?
Yeah, I lived in the city for like 30 years. And then after making a movie called Slapface, I fell in love with that area, which was like an hour outside of the city. And I moved up there.
Right on. My first co-host, Ryan Inman, he spent a lot of time in New York. And he's a big pizza guy. What's your favorite go-to pizza in New York City? Because he'd hate me if I didn't ask you.
Gosh, yeah. That is a major. That's a tough qualification. But Joe's Pizza over on Bleecker Street is probably the one.
Okay, cool, awesome, man, awesome. So you grew up a horror fan, I'm imagining, since most of your credits are through horror. Yes.
Yeah, it's undeniable. I loved horror movies. When I was a little kid, I grew up with my grandparents, and they were very cool with whatever I wanted to watch.
Nice.
So movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Dawn of the Dead and the Friday the 13th series were all huge for me. My favorite horror movie is John Carpenter's The Thing, and
it's the best. It's the best horror movie.
The best horror movie.
But it is the best.
Oh yeah, amazing special effects, and John Carpenter's a brilliant director. Amazing cast. You just can't go wrong with John Carpenter's The Thing.
The Thing, it's one of the greatest films of all time, regardless of genre, and it's just what they were able to do with all the practical effects, and it's just unbelievable, stunning. See, as I always tell people, there's a difference between favorite and best. Now, my favorite films are the Friday the 13th films, and none of them. I mean, I love them, but none of them hold a candle to that.
Yeah, but one of my favorite movie theater going experiences was Friday the 13th Part 4. So when I saw that, I was really young. My grandparents dropped me off and said, he's fine, let him into the movie theater, which is something you could do back then. And the theater was packed, and people were doing all the stuff that you want an audience to do. They were screaming at the screen and throwing popcorn and saying like, don't go in there, stuff like that. So Friday the 13th Part 4, is definitely like one of the highlights of like going to the movies ever. It was better than any Super Bowl party I've ever been to.
Hell yeah. And as we record, it is Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday it is.
Right on. Yeah. Speaking of Friday the 13th Part 4, it's going to be playing next Friday the 13th in March in Regal Cinemas and maybe elsewhere. They're going to do 3 and 4. This year they're going to do 1 and 2, but don't worry about that. See this movie. You see Mortuary Assistant.
Yeah, but 3 and 4 are fantastic.
3 and 4 will be next month.
Well, Bill, because that's when he gets the hockey mask.
Absolutely, and they're going to do 3, and it's the new scan of 3D with the real 3D glasses, not the red and the blue thing.
Awesome.
So
that's
I don't know if you can see it that way.
Yeah, you can see Paul Kraka's eyeball come flying right at you.
Absolutely, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So, what did you also grow up a gamer? Since this movie is based on a video game. I mean, did you play a lot of video games?
No, but I also didn't grow up as a black guy in the South when I directed The Geeky Witch, which was set in an African-American community in Savannah, Georgia. So, and that's available on Tubi. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But no, I didn't grow up a gamer. And yeah, I think that games over the like over the past like 10 or 15 years have really changed, and like they've gotten really immersive in narrative storytelling. So Alien Isolation was probably the game that was a game changer for me, because it was kind of like one of the best sequels to the Alien series. It was like Alien, Aliens, and then Alien Isolation. It was a really terrifying game because it really got into the fear factor. Like you're on a spaceship that looks a lot like Ridley Scott's like Nostromo from the OG Alien movie. But then like your flamethrower doesn't help you that much, and you are alone and running around from one scary alien. And it kind of like stripped everything back to the roots of what made the first film scary. It's like you're trapped in a isolated environment with a very dangerous threat. And then The Last of Us was also like a huge inspiration for anybody who who wanted to see that games could be also like really great stories with amazing characters that you could get wrapped up in. If you play The Last of Us 1 and 2, you see like really strong story arcs for the main characters. And arguably when you play the first game, you're like, oh, it feels just like an HBO series because you've got a bunch of characters and character arcs. And sure enough, they made a series out of it. And I think that was also a pretty good or really good game to series adaptation, because they cast really good actors. It was obvious that the people making the show really cared about it, and they understood that like in expanding the game into a movie, they could actually like live in scenes a little bit more. And and they could do it in such a way that they're not contradicting the things that made the game so fantastic in the first place. Now, since doing Mortuary Assistant, I've played a bunch of indie horror games and like really love them now and consider it a unique, beautiful art form in and of itself, and very scary and very weird. Like playing indie horror games now kind of feels like back in the 1990s when I moved to New York. Like there were so many cool independent films by people like Quentin Tarantino and Spike Lee, and everybody was doing, and Abel Ferrara, and they were all doing amazing work. And indie horror games kind of feel like that right now, where it feels like that's the Wild West of art, where people can come up with really crazy ideas, and if done really well with a story that can suck you in, indie horror games are kind of where it's at right now. I would make another indie horror game into a film in like 1 second. I had such a good experience on this one.
Absolutely. And I think, and again, I played the game after seeing the movie. So, but when I'm watching the movie, I really it really felt like a video game. It really felt like in Resident Evil, like a lot of those games don't feel like the thing, except for Resident Evil Raccoon City, because then you start to see the angles of the camera angles like they were in the game and things like that. And I kind of felt that even without playing the game. Then after playing the game, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this from the movie, and this was this way in the movie, and it was a real true to the game. So if you're a fan of the game, there's no way possible that you won't like this movie. It's impossible.
It's funny because I feel like there's a stronger relationship now between movies and games. Like a movie that inspired Brian Clark, who created the Mortuary Assistant game, was Paranormal Activity. He loves that series. And now, like right now, he's working on a Paranormal Activity game for Paramount. So it's really interesting how those things work out, where a movie can influence a game, and then they love the game so much they want him to make a game out of their movie. That's pretty wild to think about.
Yeah, that sounds really cool, because I wasn't a giant fan of those movies, but I think as a game they would work a lot better.
I'm really curious to see how it translates. I haven't seen all of the Paranormal Activity films. I've only seen the first one, which I liked.
I only seen the first one and I didn't like it so much, and I bought all of them.
Gotcha. Well,
on my shelf. Someday maybe I'll watch them.
Someday you'll slog through them. I mean, I don't know. Getting through like an entire horror franchise is tough. Like a lot of them have like truly great movies in the lineup, and then they take a dip every now and then. So like trying to get through the Texas Chainsaw series, like the first one is one of my favorite movies.
One of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah. And then the second one I think is fun. It's like Tobe Hooper and it's a hoot. And then after that, it's kind of, I won't say it's diminishing returns, because there are like good things in some of them, but it's a really tough, it's a tough ask to say, hey, you want to do a Texas Chainsaw marathon? I mean, it's a challenge. So Paranormal Activity, I'm sure that there's like ups and downs and dips and ebbs and flows, but like, but I've only, like I said, I've only seen the very first one. No, when I was thinking about, turning this video game into a movie, aside from the fact that I thought the game had really, really great characters, a really strong narrative, and like within seconds, I was like, oh, I can see the movie in this, which I can't see in all games.
Mhm.
One of the movies that was helpful was not based on a video game at all. I remembered Silence of the Lambs, which was such a great movie from the 90s. And in the film, it'll have shots of like Jodie Foster like going down a hallway, and then it will cut to her POV going down the hallway, like heading towards the corner to turn, and it's very scary. And I was like, oh, that feels like a video game. And then, because I rewatched the movie and I was like, well, how do you continue to translate like video game dynamics into movie terms? And Silence of the Lambs was really great for that because, kind of like the game character would be Clarice Starling in that movie, played by Jodie Foster. And the entire movie is kind of pinned on her point of view, not necessarily her literal POV all the time. But if she's frantic, then the camera will be frantic with her. If she's feeling small, the camera will be looking down at her. And when she has a moment of realization, the camera will like loom in on her. Like when she sees the moth at Buffalo Bill's house and realizes that she's trapped with him, the camera like pushes in on that moment of realization. So I was like, oh, I'm going to switch the terms so that in a video game, you are identifying with and playing as the main character. And in a movie, whether it's Friday the 13th Part 2 or Silence of the Lambs or anything else, you empathize with the main character. You care about that person. And I think that's the job of the filmmaker, is to pull you into the story of the main character. And as they're going through the horrible situation, the viewer is like wanting them to be okay and rooting for them, So that was, those were the things I was thinking about when going from game to film. But, Brian Clark, who created the game, was also awesome because he said the best thing you can do for me is make a really good movie. Like that's really, it's like if you have to abandon certain things from the game in order to make a really good movie, do that as long as you stay true to the world that we've created.
Right.
And that was the strategy too, was like anything that supported Rebecca's story stayed in the movie, and anything that felt like a side detour, like, there's interesting stuff involved in the Raymond Delver character that, I really would have loved to have gotten in. And we were like, oh, that's a really great part of the game, but I'm going to have to set that to one side. And if we ever get it, if people like the movie and would like to see more, maybe we can add those elements into a sequel or a prequel or something like that. But yeah, Brian was the best. I mean, first of all, he was with us every step of the way during pre-production. He was there with us every day on set. He plays the second dead body that Rebecca works on.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he was like there for the project, and they're with us every step of the way. Like he was involved in the writing of it. The script was written by Tracy Beebe, who's a wonderful writer from Austin, Texas, who really was great at like structuring the movie around Rebecca Owens as a character. And then Brian came in almost like the cavalry and filled everything in. But he was with us all through post. He saw every single cut of the movie. When we were interviewing sound designers, I made sure that he was on those calls so that he could offer his insights and his opinions about what the sound of his world was. So Brian, I treated like an equal partner every step of the way. I absolutely loved working with him. And we became really great friends. If we ever got the chance to work on another mortuary movie or something else, I would do that in 1 second.
Absolutely. And you were talking about Raymond, the character. He's played in this movie by Paul Sparks, right?
Paul Sparks, who's a great actor,
who is Mickey Doyle in Boardwalk Empire.
That's right. Yeah, he's got some real TV street credibility between Boardwalk Empire and House of Cards. Like great actor who's like transformative. Like he can do anything. So he did play the game. Like before he even said yes.
I didn't even recognize him in the movie until I was doing my notes, and I'm like, oh my god,
yeah.
Mickey.
No, he's a transformative guy. Like every time he plays a character, he looks a little bit different.
Yeah,
because he thinks that is how he considers himself as an actor, as one of those chameleon actors who can play many different kinds of parts. But yeah, like even before saying yes to the project, he'd read the script and then immediately played the game and looked at all the different endings and essentially like wrote an essay about this character and was like, all right, here's everything I think I know about him. And then when we met, he'd already seen my previous feature, Slapface, and really loved it. But also like it was clear that he'd thought an awful lot about this character and this game, you know, and how he was going to use those things as an entry point into the film. And that was great. You know, I mean, it just showed how much he cared about wanting to understand all of the lore and all the mystery of this character.
Right on, right on. Check my questions. All right, so where are we at? So we talked a little bit. You brought it up. The Geechee Witch movie. I just finished watching that like right before you signed on.
Yeah.
And I think you did a really good job. You said I didn't grow up as a black man from the South, but
that's right. I'm a white guy from the north.
From the South, but I know a lot of people that are, and I think I don't want to speak for black people, but I think you really nailed that in there. Like, you know, you being a white guy. I mean, did you do a lot of research for that movie to really get that down? What it was like in that culture?
Yeah, I did do some research, and there's a really great movie called Daughters of the Dust that is set in the Gullah Geechee community as well. That was a Sundance movie from way back. Great film. But the writers and producers all came from the black community from the South. Cool. You know, so J. Craig Gordon in particular was a writer producer who literally came from the Gullah Geechee community, which is an island-based community, you know, with its own patois and its own culture and its own, even specializing in their own foods. And they also have their own monster, which is the Geechee Witch, also known as the Boo-Hag.
Yeah.
And the Geechee Witch is like essentially a sleep paralysis monster who comes at you when you sleep and starts sucking your soul out and like draining all the life energy out of you. And much like Dracula, over time, like you will turn into a husk as a result of this creature like digging into you. So in terms of, you know, and I did ask them, right, they sent me the script and like, Jeremiah, would you like to direct this? And I was like, why are you asking me to do this? You know, it's like, I have no connection to your culture. But they'd seen my previous movie, Slapface, which was the Shudder release. And they were like, oh, don't worry about that. We won't let you fuck it up. You know, so we'll be right next to you, white guy, like making sure that you do not screw up our cultural nuances, you know, which are very important to them. But they said, but we also really believe in you as a filmmaker, and we know that you're great with actors, and we know that you will make it scary and strange, and you will get in the atmosphere. And you know, just going down to Savannah, Georgia, what a haunted city that is. First of all, you know, it's with that strange Spanish moss, and like anywhere you look, the sun is backlighting something. It's like a really beautiful but strange, mysterious city, filled with cemeteries and filled with folklore. And, you know, when we went to the island where the Gullah Geechee are based, you know, like there's a rich tradition of mystery and of monsters. And just like walking around inside of their graveyards, you're like, man, there's a strange vibe here for sure. So that was great. You know, I mean, it was just as any kind of artist, you always want to get outside of your comfort zone and do something different and learn something. And, you know, I decided on that movie, I was like, I'm just going to have big ears and be a big listener. And I'm going to pay attention to everything that's going on around me. And I'm going to observe. And some of the directing was really just allowing things to happen. So they had they have a funeral early on in the movie, and they have all these people who like sing and perform at the funeral, and it's like, oh my gosh, those are just like the real deal people like coming in and saying, here's what we would do. And it was really great to film it, because it was like, all right, well, if you guys do that and, you know, the sun is over here during magic hour, it's going to look absolutely stunning. And just filming that was kind of like filming a documentary where you're just allowing things to happen to you.
Yeah.
You know, the mystery of it and the strangeness was not lost on me. It was really powerful.
Right on. Yeah. I just recently, like, I see literally every horror movie that's out. Like, I've seen like 4 this week in theaters. Well,
what was your favorite one in theaters this week?
This week, The Whistle. I really liked.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
It was really, really good, man. It was surprising. I didn't think it would be as good as it was. And it's not going to win any Academy Awards or anything, but you need movies like that too. You need movies that are just, like jump scares, and you're invested in what's going on, and you're just there with the people, and you don't want to sit there and break it apart like, oh, well, this is silly, and why is she doing this, and why is this? Who cares, man? Just enjoy the moment.
Oh no, there's nothing wrong with sitting down and watching a horror movie that is a popcorn entertainment.
Absolutely.
Because
And that's where I think this one was, and I really enjoyed it.
oh yeah, no, we need those films. It's like people are like, oh, it's just brainless, but I was like, nah, it takes a brain to be entertained. If you're entertained, you can feel it. It's exciting and great. But I mean, think about all the great movies that we grew up with. It's like so. We were talking about Friday the 13th, but like Halloween is like the world heavyweight champion of being a popcorn movie. I mean, that movie is built to make you jump, and it's going to make you jump like every 20 minutes. I just rewatched it recently and I was like, man, this is the OG jump scare movie.
It's beautiful. And I mean, I do think that, and this year with the Academy, I think there's 6 horror adjacent movies nominated, which is great. And we need that recognition too. But we also need just movies where you just don't care and you just have fun.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I was delighted, like seeing like Sinners and Weapons getting all these Oscar nominations. I thought that was
on that level, and those are great.
Yeah. So cool.
I like my favorite movie of last year, which did get nominated for an Oscar, but didn't get nominated for anything big, and I think it should have, was The Ugly Stepsister. Did you get a chance to see that?
No, I haven't seen it, but I heard it was great.
It's on Shudder, and for me, I like to watch foreign films in their native language because I think you lose so much when they translate it. So it's on there both ways. So if you don't like to watch, a foreign film, it is on there dubbed.
They have it dubbed. No, I'm like you. I prefer seeing it in the original language, and then reading the subtitles. Like I just feel like you. I feel like it connects
with the feeling so much more. Like I got into Fulci recently, and
oh yeah,
you want to translate it. It's like you lose a lot. Like. You lose a lot of
the Fulci movies seem so much cheaper with the dubbing,
Yeah, they do.
And it's weird because like when Fulci gets into a set piece, it's like the coolest thing ever. When something is heading towards somebody's eyeball, you better watch out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the eyes. but I was starting to say, like, so I recently seen Night Patrol. Are you familiar with that?
I love Night Patrol. I thought that was great. Yeah, I loved it. I thought CM Punk. I mean, CM Punk is just
CM Punk was great in it.
Like he's great in it.
Wow.
No, I want to work with CM Punk so bad. He's such a cool actor.
Yeah, definitely should make that happen because he surprised the hell out of me. But the thing that movie lacked that your movie had was people on set that were part of that culture. Like I grew up in the inner city of Cleveland. Like them gang members are not going to act like that. They're not going to talk like that. So that just really took me out. And I took 5 people with me to see it. So I have a bunch of kids and they go to movies with me a lot too. So I go to a movie. It's not just one ticket. I got to buy 5 tickets,
Sure.
Not every time, but a lot of times. But my kids and their friends that went with us, they all loved it. So it was a win.
Yeah, but I hear where you're coming from because it must have been like little, like when you're hearing the, I forget if it was the Crips or the Bloods, but they're getting into all the cryptozoology of the thing and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah. It was like, and it did that did go on for a minute, but like,
it didn't land. Like I like that's not the way that would really happen. Just, me being part of that and seeing that growing up, like, yeah, we're not going to talk like that. Gotcha. But your film nailed it, and I mean, again, I'm not part of that particular culture, but it came across.
Oh, that's good to hear.
It definitely came across. The other film that you mentioned, Slapface, is that you said that was a Shudder movie? Is it on Shudder?
Yeah, it's on Shudder. I mean, that's the movie that got me the job directing Mortuary Assistant, which was really cool. So Shudder was independently financed monster movie. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I love Shudder. So yeah, Slapface was how Shudder found me. And they loved the film, so they put it up, and they put it up February 2022, I think it was. And then from there, Epic Pictures Group and Shudder were making Mortuary Assistant, so they hired me on, and off we ran, and that was really good. But yeah, Shudder, so Slapface was like the movie that I made that was independently financed, and we pulled all our favors and we went out and made it, and we just happened to have a movie that people responded to, and then Shudder loved it, and off we went with it. But yeah, Mortuary Assistant was a direct result of that. Like, once Slapface was on Shudder, then the conversation started soon after about Mortuary Assistant.
It's got to be difficult to independently fund a film like that, like it just trying to raise money. Like, I have some friends that they've made some Friday 13th fan films, and with those you can't even make money off of them. Because
are you friends with the guy? What's the guy's name?
Probably, but yeah, which guy?
Well, right. So there's the guy Tom Matthews is in some of them.
Oh, I've had him on the
Remember-
show. Hey, Vincent.
Never Hike Alone, Vincent. Yeah, Vincent. Right?
Vincent.
Yeah, those. I mean, so I haven't seen every Friday the 13th fan film because there are so many of them.
Yeah.
But I saw the Never Hike Alone ones, and I was like, wow, they really went all in with those. And then when Tommy Jarvis shows up, I was thrilled.
Absolutely, and he had a couple people from the movies. Adam Marcus did a speaking role in it.
Right on.
They had they had, of course, Tom Matthews. They had the cop. The cop from Part 6, I can't remember his name.
The guy with the like laser beam on his gun.
Yeah, and I think a couple others. And those films, like if I ranked the Friday the 13th series and I put those in it, those would not be last. Those are better than some of the actual releases.
Those were better than some of the actual releases. Yeah, well, I mean, you could tell that the guy really cared about it. Because. The rights issues with the Friday the 13th movies are all screwed up right now. So is it New Line or is it Paramount? Like, who owns it?
Some people own this part, but then some people own this part. Like one guy owns the name Friday the 13th, and the other guy owns Hockey Mask Killer, but he can't call him Jason Voorhees because this guy owns that. And, oh wow!
Never Hike Alone, it was kind of inspiring because it's clear that Vincent had so much passion for the material and clearly just said to himself, "They're not making a Friday the 13th movie right now, so I guess I better go make one." And I agree with you that for fan films, they're really kind of cool, and it kind of fills that need that I have of wanting to see another Jason story. So
whenever they get the money figured out and the rights figured out, they need to just call that dude. And because I know a lot of people that have made Friday 13 fan films, but none like his. Just call that dude and give him money.
Give him money because he will do it right.
He's able to do this with nothing.
That's right. Absolutely.
And if he could do that with nothing, imagine what he could do with even $1 million.
I know he can do a lot. Yeah, really talented guy.
Definitely. Yeah, he's great. He's been on the show before. He's
cool. Right on.
Really good dude. But yeah, a lot of these guys they're working with peanuts and just stringing stuff together. So yeah, being an independent film guy and trying to raise money yourself is tough. That's why I always donate whenever I see one of those GoFundMe's, even if it's only a couple bucks.
On an independent film, every dollar counts. Every dollar is going up on screen. So
absolutely, and if we get some guy that's making a film independently some money, and then he makes this movie, and then somebody else sees his movie, and then they want him to make another movie, and then this is how we get new directors and new creators.
But independent film is so it's the way that you do it is I was always super inspired by George Romero, because if he wanted the National Guard in his movie, then he would go ask the Pittsburgh National Guard, or the Pennsylvania National Guard. So we took that to heart when we made Slapface. We went to a lot of the local police departments, and the Fishkill Police Department was like, "Oh, we love horror movies. Yeah, film outside of our police station. We'll give you the jackets. If we can be extras in your movie, then we'll help you out." And they were all happy because the sheriff in our movie was played by the dad from Clueless. And they were like, "The dad from Clueless is in this, We got a picture taken with him." And then of course, while we're shooting other stuff, they would come by to, grab some food off the craft service table, even on days they were not working. But it was really helpful because having the police department supporting us just made it a lot easier for permits and things like that. They introduced us to the city councilman. They even called up the local hospital. They were like, "Hey, we saw you have a hospital scene. These 2 paramedics can come by with an ambulance for 1 hour if you give a donation to the hospital."
There you go. Yeah,
and it'll look way cooler when you're outside of this building that is not a hospital but an industrial building. And sure enough, the ambulance is there and it sells that we're in a hospital now. So if you're doing a low budget independent film, you might not have money, but if you have community support, and you go out and knock on doors and ask people and are really cool and friendly and, neighborly about it, people will love to help you. I mean, people love movies and, I think people want to help other people to fulfill their dreams. So when we did Slapface, it was one of those deals where we remembered George Romero, we remembered how he did it, and then we just applied some of the same techniques and said all right, we're just going to ask people and, and hopefully they can help us. And then lovingly they did. It was very nice of them. Whenever I drive by the Fishkill Police Department now, I'm really just thank you guys.
Yeah. So growing up a horror fan, is there any horror franchise or character that you would like to take your own turn at and maybe do a remake of it if you were given the opportunity?
That's a really cool question. And I guess if we're in the remake department, I would love to take on Cujo. It's been a minute since we've had a Cujo movie. And, I think it'd be really great to do like a down and dirty, like intense, like really short, like 85-minute, like jam action-packed like version of Cujo. Because I love working with kids and I've worked with animals on a couple projects now. And I was like, we haven't seen Cujo in a minute. It'd be nice to like give that a shot. But in terms of sequels or being part of a franchise or something like that, I think that They Live. If John Carpenter ever was open to, like, I wouldn't want to do a remake of They Live because that movie's perfect.
Yes.
But if we were doing like a requel, where we were in the same universe of They Live, and like Piper had done his thing like 20 years ago, and like now they're back or whatever, and we got CM Punk in there, to continue the tradition of professional wrestlers, like who are really good actors. Like Roddy Piper was perfect, and CM Punk is a just as cool, arguably a better actor, but like Piper is probably the stronger icon.
I'll agree with that.
I love both of those guys, so I wouldn't want to choose between them. But like I would want to honor Piper's legacy for being like the coolest heel by casting someone like CM Punk in the lead of They Live, because like the thing that makes that movie great is in the middle of all this, like they're out to get you, everything, it's like a professional wrestler is like walking through being like, all right, whose ass do I need to kick in order to like solve this problem? And Piper was friggin' great in They Live. So if we were able to do a They Live like requel, if someone like CM Punk were involved, I'd jump at the opportunity.
Nice. Ironically, I have a Roddy Piper They Live gumball machine like right there, but you can't.
You're not out of bubble gum.
No. If you're gonna get a horror bubblegum machine, I mean, it's the one to get, right?
Oh yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's also one of my favorite John Carpenter movies. I love, They Live. I mean, he's one of my favorite film directors. So.
He's amazing. Like when we started doing this podcast about 3 years ago, I think, me and my buddy Ryan, and I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, so Wes Craven's huge,
Oh yeah, of course.
And so we were going to do a thing where we debated who was better, Wes Craven or John Carpenter.
Wow.
So I was going back, and some John Carpenter movies I hadn't even seen. Like I seen They Live, but I seen it when I was like 5.
Oh yeah, totally.
So and The Thing, I had never seen The Thing. So I've almost 3 years I've seen The Thing for the first time.
Lucky you, man.
So I'm watching
that movie for the first time. What a treat.
Yeah, I'm watching this and I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm not going to do this because Wes. I love Wes, but you can't. Carpenter is just that much better than everybody. I mean,
yeah, like I would vote for John Carpenter, but I would caveat it by saying like John Carpenter probably had the stronger run of films between like Assault on Precinct 13 and.
Ironically, while we were doing the research, they had done the same number of feature films and the same number of like made-for-TV movies. The numbers were exactly the same. It was weird.
Yeah, like Wes Craven, I think was like a little bit like more like every decade he would land like one really like kind of iconic movie, but he had a lot of stuff in between that wasn't phenomenal.
Right, and well, I haven't seen a lot of 90s Carpenter stuff, but I hear that that's a thing for Carpenter. Like 90s, he kind of fell off.
Yeah, I think he falls off in the 90s.
Jesus.
Even in the 90s, though, like I think In the Mouth of Madness is still like a really cool movie. And, so I mean, yeah, he's tapering off and not all those. I mean, those films are not as good as his heyday. But, even in the 90s, he has like at least a couple that are like worth paying attention to. In the Mouth of Madness is probably the best of them.
That they just put that on Shudder recently, so that's on the list to check out.
Cool movie, yeah.
So is Carpenter your favorite horror director?
Let me put it this way: like Carpenter was like he always shot like in widescreen on anamorphic lenses, like he did the 2.3. It's called 2.35. So he did that starting on Assault on Precinct 13, and I love the way that he shoots, so like the last 3 films, like Slapface, Geechee Witch, and Mortuary Assistant were all, and the one I did after that were all shot anamorphic. That was directly inspired by John Carpenter, the framing and the style. I'm not comparing myself to the master, but it's more like we were inspired by like wanting to do that. And then the director of photography on Mortuary Assistant, he was a camera operator for Dean Cundy, who shot Halloween and The Thing and The Fog and Big Trouble in Little China. So like, we were really gratified. We like posted our camera tests online, and then Dean Cundy, famous DP of Jurassic Park and The Thing and all these movies, like he hit the like button on our test footage. And I gotta admit, I turned into a 5-year-old little kid. I was like, oh my God, the DP of The Thing thinks our stuff looks good. So he liked it. And I'm not immune. I'm a horror fan and I'm a horror enthusiast. So having like one of your heroes give you the thumbs up, like, is meaningful to me. It feels good.
Speaking of The Thing and your movie about video games, had you played the Thing video game?
Oh yeah, I like The Thing video game. And John Carpenter is one of the voices in the game too. He plays.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he's an ill-fated doctor. Like he should, like he winds up in a cutscene. They find him and he's like, oh my God, the Thing got loose, and here's the terrible things that have happened, and he dies in the process. But that's par and parcel with the the world of The Thing. So yeah, if you ever get to play that game again, like listen for.
I just got it recently.
Doctor.
I remember when it first came out. Like I said, I'm not a huge gamer, but I watched my buddy playing it, and it looked really cool. And they just did a remaster for the PS5, so I bought it for that, and I played it a little bit. I'm like maybe 2 hours in.
Yeah, I like the game. I mean, one of the things I do like about it is that it's there. You are in situations where you have to figure out who among you is the Thing. And that's kind of my favorite feature of it. There are some things that like it's hard to translate because it's a shoot 'em up game, right? So that means you constantly have to have little things like coming at you, which is not quite the vibe of the John Carpenter movie. The John Carpenter movie is like you're suspensefully waiting for the Thing to appear, and then wondering who among you is that Thing, and then when it erupts, it's like bananas. So the game is a little more of an action game. Like if the movie is Alien, then the game is Aliens. It's a little bit more like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the whole thing with the Thing is you're just, who do you trust? You can't trust anybody. Like the whole narrative in it just
it's such a scary part of the movie. It's like looking around and not knowing if you can like if you're if you're hanging out with your friends and your family, and just imagine that one of them is the Thing. I mean, it would be like, it's just such a creepy notion of like, oh my God, it looks just like Rick, but which is scary as hell. And I think that's why the blood test scene is so terrific in the Thing. It's like super suspenseful, and then when the shit goes down, it's mind blowing.
So there's a scene in your movie where she gets locked in the door and she's like banging on the door. Is that ripped off of The Shining?
Oh, well, oh yes. All right. No, so you
I
know the exact shot that you're talking about. So we were on set and we were filming that scene, and that was not on the shot list.
Okay.
And the director of photography goes like, should we? And I'm like, she's like, well, it's like we've been doing such a good job of like not like doing overt homages to other films and stuff like that. Then I was like, fuck it. It's like, let's do it. It's a horror movie. Let's not pretend that we're not, and
right.
Like, we all owe so much to Stanley Kubrick. Let's put the damn shot like under her while she's pounding on the we'll do it.
I was like, this can't be a coincidence.
No. We were on set and like we had to have a conversation and say like, are we doing this or not? Like, let's do it.
Yeah, and you'll find that shot in so many horror movies too.
Oh yeah, it was done with love. It's like we all owe something to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and like Riverfield's Mortuary, just like prowling around those hallways and stuff like that. I was like, if we homage that movie, if we homage The Shining, at least we're homaging something where it's like obviously it influenced all of us. It's like it's one of those movies that we all live in the shadow of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Right on, absolutely. Let's see what else we got here. Is there any actor that you would like to work with in the future?
I'm trying to get every single actor. Well, I mean, I just worked with Keith David from The Thing, so Childs.
Jesus Christ, there you go.
Great, he's a great actor. So that was like a huge one off the bucket list.
What was he in?
He was in a short film that I did called Don't Pick Up.
Okay.
Which is doing the festival rounds right now. So working with him was great because it's one of those things too where you're like, oh man, don't work with your heroes. What if Keith David's an asshole? Because that would be super crushing, because Childs was like one of my heroes when I'm growing up. And it was not like that at all. Like in rehearsals and on the shoot, every step of the way, like Keith David was like the coolest, and just like he was, he kind of put you at ease right away. Like when he wasn't doing a scene, he'd be walking around the set like singing show tunes and stuff like that. He has a beautiful singing voice. So it was kind of like, oh man, this is the coolest ever. I'm working with Childs, or Keith David, I should say. And he's given a great performance, and he's a really nice guy. That's all you can really hope for. But in the bucket list for years and years and years, it was Tom Atkins from Halloween 3 and from Night of the Creeps and all these other movies. Just because he's such a great actor, and I've always like, it wasn't like, oh man, if I could get Tom Atkins in something, that would be like honestly a real dream come true.
Sure.
So yeah, he's one of those horror icons that like, and he's not getting any younger, but he's in Pittsburgh right now. So no, I swear to God, if somebody were like, here's some money to go make a Halloween 3 fan film where it's like a requel, where it's like, trick-or-treaters knock on his door the night of the shit about to go down, and Tom Atkins like, come in, let me tell you what happened, or whatever. I would do that in 1 second because I love Tom Atkins. I think he's a great actor. I love Halloween 3.
I do too.
I think he's, everybody, like everybody from Jamie Lee Curtis to, everyone like hops into bed with Tom Atkins immediately because he's like, like
Tom Atkins,
super stud. I mean, it's Tom Atkins. What do you want?
I got a Halloween 3 shirt that it says Halloween 3 sucks, but when you look closer to it, it says if you think Halloween 3 sucks, and then in small print it says it's because Tom Atkins.
Yeah, exactly. I know the shirt you're talking about. Exactly. I know that one. Yeah, that's great. But yeah, like if I ever got Tom Atkins in something, that would honestly be a dream come true, just because he's another one of those like iconic heroes.
So when you worked with Keith David, did you ask him if he was the thing at the end of the movie, and did he have an answer?
He smiles coyly when asked that. Like he's like, I do know the answer to that question, but I'm not going to tell you.
I'm not telling you. And even if he didn't tell you, I mean, could you believe him? Like
I know it's like that's a tricky
beauty of it.
No, it's like one of the best endings of a movie ever because you just don't know. One of the interesting things that if you watch the movie again, so Keith David like broke his hand during the making of that movie at one point, so they had to put like a fake hand on him. But often, like you'll be in a scene and you'll if you look very carefully, you'll see that he's hiding one of his hands because it's like he broke it somehow during the making of the movie. So there's a little Keith David tidbit. If you rewatch the thing, like just watch his hand because sometimes it's below frame because he broke it during principal photography. And one time you can see he's wearing a fake hand, but you have to really be looking for it to see it. That was a little tidbit that I learned from Keith.
He had a small part in this movie shot in and around Cleveland, Shelby Oaks. Did you see Shelby Oaks?
I saw Shelby Oaks. Of course, I wanted to support independent filmmaking in that way with that YouTuber, Chris Stuckman. Yeah, Keith David shows up for one cool scene. Mm-hmm. He's been doing that quite a lot. I mean, he does like, a bunch of films a year, and he seems to be doing like 1 or 2 scenes in them now because he was in Jordan Peele's Nope for like a couple scenes, and then he was in Shelby Oaks for a scene. So it feels like that's what he's been up to lately. And he's about to play. Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. He's doing an independent film with the director of photography of Slapface and another director friend of mine where he's playing Frankenstein's monster, which is something that he's always wanted to do ever since he was
wow,
I think it's called Monstrous. Yeah. So that's coming out like next year probably.
Yeah, that's a big right on. That's awesome. Yeah, I was watching Shelby Oaks because it came out as I go to these mystery movies especially if I know they're going to be a horror movie because I'm like, well, I'm going to see it anyway. I might as well see it for $5,
Oh yeah.
So Shelby Oaks was one of them, and I'm like, I know where that is, and I know where that is.
Oh, you must have recognized a bunch of locations. I've heard a lot of folks from that neck of the woods saying like that it's a very familiar location.
Well, and they used the prison from Shawshank.
The prison from Shawshank, right?
So that's
great location.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And then an abandoned amusement park that I didn't know existed. It's 25 minutes from my house, and I got to get out there to check it out because that'd be probably fun to shoot some stuff at and just mess around.
Okay, that super creepy location.
Oh God, yeah. So like that was really cool. It's always cool to like. I love to support the smaller films the most. I always on my podcast I always encourage people like if you only could see one movie this week, make it the smaller movie. don't go see the movie that made $170 million. See
Right.
that when it comes out on streaming, see it later. But if you can only afford, because I know money's tight for people, go see the small movie, because that's how we're going to get the next John Carpenter or the next, Toby Hooper or whatever have you,
That's
is by
absolutely right.
supporting these guys and letting them grow.
That's right.
So, but again, I literally see everything. And then like if I have a Blu-ray or a 4K of a movie in my house and it's playing at the theater down the street, I'll go pay to see it rather than watch it right in my living room.
Big time.
It's just something about going to the theater. They have no matter how good your setup is, theirs is better.
Oh yeah. No, I had a real treat going to see, so Iron Lung is another video game to film adaptation that just came out. And I, that was one where Markiplier he self-financed the movie. So I was like, I'm so happy Sam Raimi has a new horror movie out, and Rachel McAdams is terrific.
Yeah.
I was like, I've got to go support the indie one. I got to go support Iron Lung.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we see an Iron Lung. And the one thing that stood out the most for me with that was Markiplier's acting ability. It was great.
Oh yeah. When I walked into the movie, I was like, if this movie is too boring, then I'm going to leave, because it's 2 hours and 7 minutes long. And then I was also like, and if Markiplier can't quite pull it off, then I'll stick around for as long as I can. But by the end of the 2 hours and 7 minutes, I was like, that was really good. It was really spooky. Markiplier directed the shit out of it, and his performance is really good.
It was so good, and for a guy he's never directed or acted, right? I mean,
that's right. I mean, he does all the YouTube influencer stuff, but
it's a whole
he never directed that, before, but you can't tell from looking at it. It feels very polished.
I mean, I'm nowhere near on his level, but I've been doing some YouTube stuff for like 3 years, and I was in one scene of a movie that's not out yet, and maybe who knows it'll be out. But it was a lot harder than you think it is, and I didn't even have a line. Well, I had one line, then he took it away from me because I kept screwing it up.
What's really hard to do in a movie. So Mortuary Assistant, we've got like all these dead bodies. We hire actors to play dead people. Yeah. Now, a couple of years ago, a friend of mine called me up and was like, Jeremiah, can you come by? Not for Mortuary Assistant. Can you come by for my movie, and can you play a dead body for me? I was like, dead body, how hard could it be? You lie on the ground, your eyes are closed.
Yeah,
I'll take a nice nap. So I show up, and they cover me in blood and shit. And then they're like, lie down on the ground, but you don't lie regular. You have to lie like twisted in this weird shape. And then you have to keep your eyes open, and you can't breathe between action and cut. I was like, geez, this is going to be way harder than I thought. And then, they'd be rolling the camera and like, all right, rolling, and hold your breath, Jeremiah. And then they'd start talking about the shot, being like, hey, what if we're doing this over here? And I'm like, guys, I'm down here, holding my breath. Like, please. And so when we were doing Mortuary Assistant, we had to cast all these actors playing dead people. And I swore, I was like, I'm going to treat all of them great, or as good as I can. I mean, they're going to be lying on that table, all day. They got to go through like a couple hours of special effects before they even arrive on set, and then when they're dead, they have to like either keep their eyes open or not breathe or do all this other stuff. I was like, I'm going to treat these guys like royalty. I'm going to treat them like gold, because anybody who's doing that, it is not an easy job. And like between takes, they would have to like stretch and do stuff, because like lying still all day for like 8 hours, that's a real commitment. And I thought the actors who played the corpses were absolutely great. I loved working with them, and and a lot of them made the trailer too. So like they really felt like they made they thought that it was worth it. They thought that they made a good contribution. But yeah, if anybody asks you to play a dead body, that stuff is way harder than you would think. You're not going to be there to take a nap. It's challenging work. It takes a lot of special talent to just do anything in movies. That was the thing from my one scene that was in this movie, and that I took from it. I'm watching these guys set up everything and the way that they're looking at everything, and it was really cool to see the whole process. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I even make it in the movie, because I mean, I sucked really bad. I know I did, but I'm not an actor either. So like, I playing a dead body is probably the most that I'd be able to pull off. But like,
you always hear these people watching these movies like, oh, I could do that. It's so easy. I mean, he's just, how hard is it to pretend to be something? Like, it's really hard when you have the camera in your face and you're like, all right, now I need you to do this, this, and this. And it just, I don't know, like the pressure to not screw it up causes you to screw it up.
Oh, yeah, totally. I was always very impressed by David Cronenberg, who acted in a couple of movies, and it wasn't because he's an actor. It's because he was like, let me see what it feels like to be an actor, just so I can be sympathetic to the process. But then you see him show up in movies like Jason X and, and you're like, wow, David Cronenberg's actually, he's not bad. He seems pretty comfortable in front of the camera. He dies very well in Jason X.
Right. And you'll see a lot of people like CM Punk who doesn't have a lot of experience acting, and then they end up being pretty good. But with the Markiplier, it was a little bit better than pretty good. I mean,
he was very good. He holds your interest for 2 hours and 7 minutes, and he's the face you're looking at the entire time.
Yeah, he's the only. I mean, besides they show one person looking through the window for like a couple seconds, but he's the only guy in the movie. I mean, there's voice actors, but yeah, it's just him. And like that was the thing about Tom Hanks in that volleyball movie, Castaway.
Oh yeah,
you're putting up a 2-hour movie by yourself. It's hard, and he at least volleyball.
You talk to the volleyball. That's right.
Right.
No, I was very impressed by again from the as a video game to film translation. Iron Lung was also like a really strong offering.
Now, I had no idea about that it was a video game or anything about the video game, so we're gonna try to check that game out too and see what that's like. I have a 11-year-old son that likes to play video games, so I'll probably buy it for him and watch him play it I'm definitely playing Mortuary's Assistant. And back to that though, the makeups and the effects in that were really good. So whoever you got to do that really, I mean, those dead bodies look like dead bodies, man.
Yeah, Norman Cabrera did our special effects, and he's like 10 years older than me, but he started when he was a teenager under Rick Baker. He wrote Rick Baker. So Rick Baker did American, but like American Werewolf in London and Gremlins 2 and every other damn classic horror movie. A really extraordinary.
He's even the first Oscar for special effects, right?
First Oscar for special effects. I mean, like one of the legends.
Yeah.
So Norman trained under him, and on Gremlins 2, there's the great Key and Peele sketch where they're making up all the different gremlins. But Norman was like, yeah, it actually was kind of like that. Like I created Vegetable Gremlin, and he's worked on some Guillermo del Toro movies, so he definitely had some chops.
Yeah.
Norman's just like a kid in the sandbox. He loves to play, and he had a lot of ideas about how to make each corpse feel iconic. Starting from like the very first image you see in the movie is this like mouth brace thing with all these like wires sticking out.
That's what sold me on it in the trailer. I'm like, oh, this is gnarly, man.
Gnarly, yeah. We really wanted the special effects to be like. So scene 1 is like Rebecca is kind of finishing her interview process by like embalming a dead body in front of Raymond. And we right away we're like, we're gonna let the viewer know what they're in for. So it's like slicing into the skin, like opening it up and seeing innards inside, sticking tubing in there, drawing out blood and pumping embalming fluid in. We wanted the viewer to really get up close to those special effects. And to the point where we like even got a medical lens called the probe lens. We put it on the camera so that we could get right up close to the special effect. And Norman was like, wow, that's going to be incredible because it'll really highlight the features of the effects that I'm creating. Norman also was like very keen to know all the actors playing the dead bodies. It's like, show me their pictures so that I can match their skin tone exactly, or be ready to match their skin tone exactly, because every dead body is like a slightly, every person has a slightly different shape and so on.
Sure.
So he really took it seriously. And then on top of that, we also like some of our monsters, like our hero monster is from the game and it's called the Mimic. And it's like a head to toe creature suit for this that's put on this remarkable actor named Mark Steger from Stranger Things. So Mark Steger was very familiar with playing creatures, and he'd worked with Norman a bunch of times before. But yeah, he basically had to inhabit this like gnarly looking demon that is skulking around on the sidelines. And that was also a Norman effect. Like a head to toe creature suit on a low budget independent feature is no mean feat, and like Norman was definitely the guy for the job. And Steger was definitely the guy to inhabit it. We were really proud of that effect.
Yeah,
Norman's great.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a really good movie. I'm gonna go see it again. I'm gonna see it Saturday. I'm not gonna see it Friday because I'm doing the Friday the 13th thing. but I'm going to take the whole family up there and we're going to all
You'll
watch.
see it on Valentine's Day. So happy Here's a heart for Valentine's Day.
That's what I'll do. I have an unlimited pass at Regal, so I go to a lot of movies there. But again, whenever I go to a movie, I'm buying. Which one of my kids want to go? Does my wife want to go? Sometimes I'm buying 5, 6, 7 tickets. You know?
Wow, wonderful. So you'll have an entire row
and everything else, you know. So
that's great. That's how to do it.
I support the movie. Oh, I got a thing like some movie app sent me a thing at the end of the year, like you bought 300 some odd tickets for movies. Like I was like, oh Jesus Christ! And you start to do the math, and you're like, wow, that could have bought a car.
Oh yeah,
it's what I love to do, you know.
But I mean, yeah, like movies are a really special part of my life. You know, I love going to the movies. You know, it's always a source of great joy for me.
That's what we like to do as a family. Like we'd rather do that than like maybe go out to eat and spend the same amount of money at a fancy dinner. You know, something like that.
Go see a fancy movie instead. You know, and because the movie is an experience, though. You know, if you go see a movie in the theater, it's like it's something that you kind of like. It just takes over you. You know, you get to feel it in like full experience.
It's with you a lot more for sure. Oh, yeah. You know? And you're always like, whenever movies are coming up, oh yeah, I seen that in the theater. You know, and it always means more.
Oh yeah, totally.
The theater for sure. Like, totally. Yeah. But definitely looking forward to that. So it'll be Friday the 13th. I hope we'll have this up somewhere before then. If not, this Thursday, which probably has already happened if you're watching this right now, we're going to talk about it on our live. We go live every Thursday at 7:00 Eastern. So we're going to hype the movie there and try to get some people in to see it. But I want to thank you so much, man, for coming on to talk about this. And I'm really honored to have you. And I love seeing the movie. I was thankful that you were able to send me that screener. That was really cool. And yeah, really like the movie. Can't wait to see it again in the theater so I can see it the right way. And I'll shoot you a message and let you know what the theater was like.
Oh, that's great. I'd appreciate that.
All right. But I'm going to get out of here because I got to get ready to cook some food for the Super Bowl.
Fantastic.
All right. Jeremiah, man, thanks a lot for coming on, man. I'll shoot you a message when this is going to come out, and I'll tell you what the theater was like during your movie, okay?
Thanks a lot, Rick. I appreciate it.
Awesome, brother. Take it easy, brother.
Take care, man.
Bye.
Oh, shit. There goes the neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood. There goes another neighborhood.